This is the Dubai that we often see. Glitter, glamour, and over-the-top wealth.
The golden car collection of Dubai.
But only a few miles from the world's tallest skyscraper, 7-star hotels, and luxury yachts, there is a parallel universe where tens of thousands of people are trapped in slave-like conditions. The UAE is in the top 10 on the global slavery index, but here's the story that only a few people talk about. Long before oil, Dubai was already a melting pot of cultures. Their main economic activity was pearl diving, fishing, and trade. About half their population already consisted of foreign workers, and they were an active part of Dubai society. But in their transition to oil wealth, a handful of families consolidated all power. And they created this highly stratified society against a backdrop of human suffering. This is Dubai's dark secret with Hindsight. Dubai's economy is thriving, unlike that of the rest of the world. All highly developed countries are currently fighting recessions that are rapidly destroying their citizens' wealth. Even in the US, most Americans believe that they need $1.4 million to retire, a 50% increase over just the last 4 years. But will the free market save our bank accounts? Goldman Sachs gives us the bad news. They expect that the usual stock and bond portfolio that so many people rely on will underperform for the next decade. So what do they recommend? In one word, diversify. Like the tens of thousands of active Masterworks investors who diversified into a low correlation asset while collecting over $55 million in proceeds along the way. See, today's sponsor, Masterworks' art investing platform, lets you invest in contemporary art. This asset isn't correlated to the typical markets like stocks or bonds, and Masterworks offers their blue-chip paintings to investors in the form of shares. You can diversify into multiple artworks while also controlling the amount that you invest. Then, if a work you invested in sells for a profit, you receive the proceeds. Some past offerings have sold in minutes, but you can skip the waitlist and start investing today by going to the QR code on screen or by clicking the link in the description. Today, Dubai's population exists for 90% of migrant workers, and this group is essential for sustaining Dubai's economic growth. But this is nothing new. In the early 1950s, Dubai was inhabited by about 20,000 people. They had a tribal culture that was mostly reliant on agriculture, fishing, and pearling. Dubai was inhabited by many Persians, many of whom came from Linga, in modern-day Iran. Linga used to be an important trade hub for goods from Asia, but in 1903, their government imposed high taxes on exports, forcing many merchant families to move. The ruler of Dubai was known for its relative liberal economic policies and its tolerance of different cultures and religions. So many of these families moved to Dubai, and they took their business with them. In 1950, a third of Dubai's population were Persians, and they controlled much of the retail trade and the food commerce. There were also many Indians, who were primarily employed in banking and retail trade, and most of the Arabs were pearl divers. Dubai's openness to outsiders is deeply embedded in their DNA, but a sudden shift was about to occur. In Kuwait and in Saudi Arabia, large reserves of oil had already been found. The British worked closely with the leaders from these Emirates, and they searched for oil. In the late 1950s, Abu Dhabi got lucky. Dubai saw an opportunity in the success of their neighbor. They dredged and they widened their creek, enabling the transport of large equipment for oil exploration. This new function of Dubai as a transport hub for the oil industry quickly turned into their main source of income. The region was still sparsely populated and undeveloped. There were no paved roads, and there was hardly any running water. In 1956, this became the first concrete building to be built in Dubai, housing the Abu Dhabi Oil Limited Company. 10 years later, Dubai finally found oil, albeit in far smaller quantities than their neighbor. This was a moment of mixed celebration, as Dubai's leadership realized that their oil money would be finite. They only had a small window of opportunity to build new industries for when their oil money would dry up. In 1971, the United Arab Emirates unified as one country. The sheikhs were promised a significant degree of autonomy and control over its internal affairs, and they got lucky from the very start.
It's a crisis of such proportion that we probably haven't even begun to grasp it yet.
The 1973 oil crisis led to a boom in oil prices, providing the rulers of Dubai with incredible amounts of public revenue, but they realized something else. On the other side of the peninsula in Lebanon, a civil war had broken out and its capital Beirut turned into the front line of this war. The downtown area, where most commercial activity took place, was a barren war zone. Before the war, Beirut is what Dubai is today. It had a thriving banking and financial sector with relatively liberal policies. They were a playground for wealthy Arabs and Westerners who now had to travel much farther to find similar services. Dubai was getting ready to take their place. They invested in a series of large infrastructure projects, starting off with the Dubai World Trade Center, at that time the tallest building in the Arab world. Then they invested in their airport, building a new terminal, runways, and hangars, facilitating the emergence of Dubai as a global hub for transportation. They built new town centers, residential areas, and industrial zones. All of this emerged in a matter of a few years, and to facilitate this growth, Dubai imported thousands of laborers. Between the oil boom of 1973 and 2000, there were several waves of mass migration. The first migrants came from Arab countries like Yemen, Egypt, and Jordan, and Great Britain imported many highly skilled laborers from India, and they made sure that no other Western power would get too involved that they could threaten their exclusive access to this wealth. The leaders of the UAE rigorously prioritized enriching only the indigenous people who lived in this region when oil was found. They even excluded those who had left the Emirates in the 1940s and 50s to chase the oil booms of Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. But this was at a time where Pan-Arabism, an ideology that Arab nations should unite as one country, was gaining popularity. The leaders of the UAE feared that importing non-local Arab workers could spread radical social and political ideas that could threaten their rule. This is why in Dubai, the UAE, and across the Gulf, leaders began viewing Asian migrants as less threatening. Dubai had tried from the onset to attract foreign business and to develop as a trade hub, but to protect their monarchy and absolute power, they created a class of mostly Asian servants that they could fully control. When in 2000 the oil prices nearly tripled, Dubai set off to develop their largest projects to date, like the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world, and the Palm Jumeirah, one of the world's largest man-made islands. Dubai's urban area expanded rapidly, and its population exploded. Many unskilled and semi-skilled workers came from Southeast Asia, and they worked under the kafala system. In practice, how it works is that workers are recruited in their home countries by so-called labor supply agencies. They often have to pay thousands of dollars in fees, and when they arrive in Dubai, their passports are seized, and their compensation turns out to be much less than that they were promised. They are now in debt, they cannot leave, and they end up in labor camps where fires, outbreaks of diseases, and poor living conditions are widely reported. Modern slavery is defined as situations of exploitation that a person cannot refuse or leave because of threats, violence, coercion, or deception. This seems to be a textbook example. The kafala system enables Dubai to quickly import labor when times are good and to quickly expel labor when times are bad, like in 2008.
No region is immune from the global financial turmoil.
The housing market collapse created one financial crisis after another.
In the early 2000s, Dubai's growth was fueled mostly by real estate. There was so much faith in Dubai's invincibility that it became incredibly easy for people to get credit to buy property. But when that system collapsed, it caused housing prices to drop with a remarkable 40%, by far the biggest drop anywhere in the world. Many construction projects were either cancelled or paused, and foreign workers were placed on unpaid vacation or they were laid off. These ruling families were given all the money in the world, and they chose to build a system that prioritizes profit over humanity. A system that turned individuals into commodities to be exploited for economic gain. And this is not unique to Dubai. This is happening across the Gulf. This kind of system, where the majority of people is exploited for the benefits of a few, has historically failed to innovate, expand, and to attract genuine investment. The global financial crisis showed that even a diversified economy like Dubai's is vulnerable. In 1975, the energy sector made up over half of Dubai's economy, and by 2018, it was less than 2%, with wholesale and retail trade, transport and logistics, financial services and insurance, and manufacturing making up the largest contributors to Dubai's GDP. But yet, Dubai took a massive hit when the real estate market collapsed in 2008. Abu Dhabi provided Dubai with an emergency loan, proving to be a vital lifeline. And this is their major advantage. They still have plenty of oil in the ground. Abu Dhabi's proven wells can continue at current rates for another 80 years. Dubai's economy today is bigger, more diverse, and more integrated than ever before, and projections are generally positive. Their airport is the world's busiest by international passenger traffic, and their 2 airlines are amongst the top 10 safest in the world. It's admirable how they managed to diversify, and they undeniably have also made a series of good decisions. Compared to other countries in the Gulf, they have even done a lot to address the issues that face foreign workers, but most of these policies failed due to poor enforcement. Dubai is revered in the Gulf. Countries like Saudi Arabia and Qatar are trying to copy their economic model, with mega projects and reforms to open up to the West. And I'll leave it up for another video why I think this will fail. But Dubai is focusing on building a domestic market. They're building low and mid-level income housing. They're investing in public beaches and parks, and they're further opening up to the West.
Dubai has scrapped its alcohol tax by 30%.
The moves are expected to boost the appeal of Dubai for tourists and expat workers.
They got rid of a 30% alcohol tax. They adopted the Western Saturday-Sunday weekend instead of the Islamic Friday-Saturday weekend.
The move is in a bid to make Dubai more attractive than neighbouring cities.
The sad truth is that they still have so much power and money that they can likely continue on this path. Dubai is amongst the least equal places on earth, with some of the highest numbers of modern slaves. But they now also have the opportunity to lead the region away from exploitative labor practices. Dubai once thrived as a melting pot of cultures that actively participated in society. This is deeply embedded in their DNA, and with a 90% expat community that is unlikely to ever go away. If Dubai would demonstrate how inclusive, fair labor practices would benefit their economy, it might not just lead to long-term sustainable growth, it could also have a ripple effect to other countries in the Gulf. If you want to see another video, please consider watching one of these 2 videos next.